Hey everyone, Dave here. We are talking today about do-it-yourself investment property inspections. So, a couple of things. One is knowing what I know now, there are probably a couple buildings that I wouldn't have bought or would have offered a lot less because I eventually uncovered problems that I could have definitely seen had I gone through this list. And two, and we're going to go to the first slide, you can certainly do your own inspections, but this is not meant to replace a formal inspection on a property, but instead just serve as a preliminary screening tool as you're out there looking at many different types of deals. And so before you even set foot inside the property, there's a few things you can do. We can look at off-street parking, whether that's available or at least reasonably close on-street parking. What's the noise level like in the neighborhood in terms of traffic and neighbors? How close are desirable neighborhood features, grocery stores, highway access? If you're running to younger people, maybe it's restaurants and bars. If it's older people, unfortunately, maybe it's medical facilities. And then, as you start to walk into the property, is the space consistent with the type of tenants you plan to rent to in terms of size, features, number of bedrooms, living space, bathrooms, etc. In terms of specifics, we really want to first look for signs of major problems. And major problems we define as expensive to fix, right? So big ones on this list are structural issues, significant water damage, or dated or malfunctioning electrical wiring. So in terms of structural issues, as you're walking through things that are giveaways, older buildings, you have some slightly pitched floors that can be labeled as charming, or it's a major structural problem. I've walked through buildings and talked to the realtor about what's going on here with these sloped floors, and maybe we need to get an inspector here. And actually, a couple of properties, they wouldn't even allow an inspection prior to the sale. So that's a sign to run away from that property. Other things that could be signs of structural issues. And not all of these are a guarantee that there are structural issues, but they provide clues that it might exist. Cracks in the walls or floor tiles of concrete floors, compromised beams in the basement. I actually bought a building with a bad beam in the basement. If I'd have seen that beforehand, would have never bought the building. It's fixable. All of this is fixable, just would have paid less. Or finally, crumbling facade. And that can be structural, or it can actually be water damage, which is our next topic. When we're looking at major water damage, holes in the ceiling, again, crumbling facade, visible mold, these mold remediation guys, it's a great business. I think I'm in the wrong business. Sometimes you show up, you cut out some drywall, you set up some fans and charge like 10 grand. So, or more, if it's a big property or a big problem. If it's a lot area, it's gonna be 30 grand, 40 grand. And then finally, lots of water in the basement. Because again, maybe they did a cleanup and have parged walls and other things to make it look nice, but it could be a sign of problems to come if we've got a lot of water infiltration in the basement. Electrical, there's old style wiring called knob and tube wiring. You can certainly go down into the basement, and if you see these kind of white doodads around in the rafters, it's probably knob and tube wiring. It could be old and disconnected, or it could be what is functioning in the house. So we really need to see what's going on there. A lot of insurance carriers will require it to be ripped out and replaced. Flickering lights, not a good sign. And then we're now starting to drift into areas which probably aren't deal breakers, or at least the need to ask for significant concessions on price. But one to also look at while you're in the basement is plumbing. Look for old cast iron plumbing. It's going to fail at some point and be costly to replace. And again, that's why newer construction is much less expensive to maintain. Roof problems. So this is not necessarily a deal breaker, but definitely needs to be factored into your offer. If you want to have some fun, get yourself a drone. If you're new to drones, get a cheap one first so you don't crash this thing, but it's easy to fly one up there and look around for cracked caulk or rust spots on the flashing, bad shingles, missing or broken shingles, looking around at the rubber boots, if they're cracked or worn around the vent pipes, moss up there, or a missing or damaged chimney cap can all be signs of a roof that is in need of some TLC. Some other minor points, we want to do an insurance check, see if the area is prone to flooding, if there have been any excessive levels of sewer backups in the area. Both of these will increase your premiums and need to be accounted for. And then finally, hoarding. At the very least, you're going to need to pay to have this stuff hauled away. You'll probably have some pest issues in there. It just provides fabulous homes for stuff to hide in. So that's going to be a cost. But at worst, significant clutter can hide other issues. Once you start moving stuff around, it's like, oh my gosh, what is under here? And so, again, not necessarily a deal breaker, but bid on the property accordingly. And honestly, in a lot of cases, you're doing the family a favor. They don't want to deal with this. And so you can bid on the property accordingly. If you're going to do a detailed look at one room, I do it in the kitchen. I don't think you need to spend your time assessing and micro-analyzing all the rooms, but the kitchen is kind of a good bellwether of how well the property is maintained. So, you guys can read this list as well as I can, pause the video, but just check and make sure everything's working. Look at the function and fit of the cabinets. Look at the countertops. Are the windows working properly? And kind of, again, use this as a gauge to what the rest of the house systematically is going to look like. Obviously, if you have the time and can go room by room, go ahead and do so. But again, you're trying to screen large numbers of properties here. And if you're going to look at one room, it's definitely the kitchen. The exterior, absolutely look at, because it can be big dollars to fix this stuff, especially if there's a lot of overgrown landscaping. You want to make sure the fencing's in good shape, sprinklers working properly, outdoor lights are working, garage door opening and closing, all this good stuff. Again, more of a visual and just take it in. That plus, again, facade work. I talked about that in the context of water damage, but basically look at the surrounding neighborhood and look at the outside and do an assessment of what it's going to take to bring this up to being presentable in the neighborhood and something that somebody wants to rent. I show a couple of other checklists here. You can pause the screen and look at these. Again, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. Focus on that kitchen. And so then finally, once you complete your inspection, you'll need to do that rehab budget. And if you've missed things, bump it up accordingly. Adjust what you plan to offer if it makes sense to do so to cover any additional work. And then if you're serious about the property and you're not in some of the crazy markets that we've had recently where everybody wants highest and best in like the next 5 minutes and nobody's doing inspections, get a professional inspection done. Evaluate if the electrical is done and up to code. Look for things like unremediated asbestos. Get into areas of the house that you're not going to crawl around in, crawl spaces, etc. These inspectors can be worth their weight in gold. And again, you don't want to pay the money to inspect 20 properties before you buy one. But if you've done your preliminary inspection and things either look good or you feel like you can craft an offer to get these things corrected, have that inspection done. It can uncover potential additional issues and also provides you with legitimacy during negotiations. So that is it on do-it-yourself property inspections. Like and follow if you'd like to see more from me. Take care.